Another good example why I started this channel, which is most likely never going to go anywhere, but that's not the point. It has to be aired. It has to be said. It is part of the reason is watching a lot of debates and these talk shows and people and their opinions is like, they never fucking make sense, right? There's never a proper constructed debate or argument. It's always disjointed. It doesn't marry up with what's actually being said, and it never seems like there's any thought about the bigger picture or the little nuances that might be happening. There's also this thing that it seems like everything is based on sound bites. If it sounds clever for that moment in time and it sounds true, that's all they care about, even though the topic at hand is so much more complex. So this is a classic example of that exact thing. So I don't know the root of this. All I know is that Nick Ferrari goes on about these fucking toothbrushes and how they're only 25 quid, and if you can't afford toothbrushes, you're some sort of absolute loser, right? Now, there's so much to be said, so I hope I'm not going to go on and on and on, but I probably will, because it absolutely angers the absolute bejesus out of me. I want to try and be calm when it comes to doing these videos. I want to be a little bit ASMR, but people infuriate me so much by their bullshit. They're absolute bullshit. I don't care if it's stupidity. I don't care if it's deliberate. I don't care if they try to just be the loudest one in the room. I don't care what the reason is. What I care about is that it is so fucking annoying and it is so pathetic. And the worst of it is, us as a society, it will not solve our problems. Nick Ferrari is not going to solve any problems. He's not going to make anything better. He's just dividing people. He's just making people believe in bullshit. He's just soundbiting things that people can latch on and shake their heads to either yes or no. So I can only make an assumption here, but I'm assuming that somebody said people are so poor they can't even afford toothbrushes anymore. Now, this is what he clings on, trying to make this a pathetic argument when it isn't. It was somebody most likely just saying, oh, I'm so poor, or people are struggling to even buy toothbrushes for their children. Now, there's so much more to be said about this, but let's just hear how he argues this point.
Mandy in St Albans, if you can't afford a toothbrush, you shouldn't have... Mandy in St Albans, if you can't afford a toothbrush, you shouldn't have had a child, should you? Good morning.
I don't think any of us anticipated the rising costs, and I volunteer for my local food bank, and we're seeing people turn up who can't afford food at the moment.
Right.
So, of course, they would have been able to afford toothbrushes.
How much is a toothbrush?
See, this is what I mean. She literally said, of course they probably would be able to afford a toothbrush. And then he goes straight back onto this point that somebody says and just hammers it down as if, he's going to make some sort of, intellectual point about fucking toothbrushes. When literally this conversation is about the state of the nation, the state of the economy, and how some people are, or a lot of people are, absolutely falling through the cracks.
Yes.
About a quid?
No. I can get you 2 for 25p in Asda.
Now, look how smarmy you can be just by knowing the price of a toothbrush. I mean, seriously. And these guys are paid way too much, right? For just talking shit. You know what I would really like? I hope that LBC watches this and listens to this. I would love Nick Ferrari and James O'Brien to actually have a debate on all these matters. I mean, I find it really weird that such polar opposites can be on the same channel. At the same time, you could argue it's probably a good thing to have both sides of the story. But both sides of the story are so polarized that in themselves they're probably polarized and not actually being very useful. Anyway, let's carry on.
Great.
Now, if you're telling me, if you're honestly asking me to believe that parents cannot shell out 25p for toothbrushes, they are spending their money in the wrong way.
How much is the bus to get to Asda in the first
I've
place?
no idea. Well, they have to get
How
a
much
bus
is
to
the
get there
shopping?
anyway. They presumably they do sometimes go out, don't they? Whether it might be to go to Asda or to go to the post office or to go to the newsagents to buy a newspaper, whatever they want to do, however they spend, or even to walk to the park. They walk to the park via Asda and they spend 25p. And guess what? They've got 2 toothbrushes. Fantastic. If you haven't got 25p, Mandy, give me a break.
Well, the food bank that I volunteered for recently, we had to go to someone's house.
Soup. We're not talking about packets of pasta and whatever else.
Do you see what I mean? I mean, it is quite obvious that this whole conversation about the toothbrush was probably some throwaway comment about people not having enough money to buy toothbrushes. Whereas the actual story is about food banks and how many people rely on it now, and even people that are working respected jobs, having to use food banks. And he keeps going back to the stupid point of the stupid toothbrushes and how people should be able to afford a toothbrush. And he's probably right. People probably can afford a toothbrush, and when they're at Asda and they've got 25p and they need a toothbrush, they'll probably get a toothbrush. That is not the point of this conversation. And this woman who's phoning, she's obviously trying to make sense of this conversation and explain. Most likely this is about poverty and all these kind of things related. But number one, Nick Ferrari only goes on about the stupid toothbrushes as if that matters. The whole headline of this is inflammatory. Don't have a child if you can't have a toothbrush. So kind of like clickbait bullshit, right? How does this help society? How does this conversation help us? Especially when he's not listening to what this woman is saying. He just keeps wanting to make this a point about toothbrushes to make himself look superior or whatever he wants to do, right? His whole attitude, his whole way of talking, his whole body language is just horrendous. Now, he's sitting in a very comfortable situation. And let me tell you, a bin man, somebody who sweeps the floor or washes bathrooms in a hospital, I can name millions of jobs where people are paid hardly fuck all in comparison to Nick Ferrari, are more useful to society and our greater good than his fucking stupid ranting bullshit. His derogative, wanting to sound clever nonsense. It is why we have a society that we have. We look up at these people and we don't look at the people who are actually running our society, who keeps our shit together. The people that clean the streets, the people that pick up your litter, that get your bins done. The police, the nurses, all these people. We pay them fuck all, and we give somebody like this not just a lot of money, but also a stage from which he can spout his shit. God, help us. That's just a phrase. I don't believe in God.